Welcome to another episode of Mhandisi the Engineers podcast, and this is Lorette Newton, and I'm your host for the day. Today we have a very, very special guest. She is a design and construction engineer working with Kenya Power for 7 years now. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you, Newton and Okelo. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be on the show today, and I'm an electrical engineer at Kenya Power, in charge of design and construction for Kitui County, where I manage connection, new installations, and also I am the founder of AshGold Africa, an initiative that focuses on mentoring women and girls in the areas of STEM, community empowerment, and where we focus on doing projects that will uplift and transform the lives of young women, girls, and men within our communities. I am happy to be a STEM champion. I'm also a professional member of a number of associations within Kenya and globally, such as the IEK, the Engineers Board of Kenya, and the IEEE, where I have served as the treasurer and the chairperson for the Power and Energy Society. Currently, I volunteer as the Women Engineering Lead for Africa and the Women in Power representative for the East Africa area. And also, just one more thing, not to have too many, also as the Region 8 Students Activities Coordinator for Women Engineering student branches. It's a pleasure again to be here, and let's do this.
Yeah, that was quite elaborate, Sally, and it's good actually that you mentioned a lot. So let's begin with what you do in Kenya Power. What is your scope? What is it specifically that you can do in, like, if you summarize?
So my scope basically is to do installations to households, businesses, or institutions that do not have power within the county. And starts from the application process, where we get the customer on how they can apply depending on their load. Then we go ahead to design your application and give you a quotation depending on the distances, a number of factors such as the distances and the loads that the customer requires to be able to have sufficient power. On to construction, that means installation of the supply to your place or to your premise. The whole process, that's what we do. And there's actually a key component that we focus on, especially for rural communities, called the Last Mile Connectivity Program, where we partner with various institutions such as REREC, which is the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, to do installations for public institutions such as hospitals, schools, community boreholes, etc. We also work hand in hand with the county government on a number of projects. Specifically in Kitui, we have the Kitui textile industry, which is commonly called Kikotech, and a number of industries that are coming up within the county. So we collaborate with the county government to do these installations. And in terms of collaboration, beyond just installation, also comes to the financing aspect of it, where we have different financial institutions that we work with through our headquarters and our regional offices, such as the World Bank, AFDB, European Investment Bank, just the different financial partners that fund power projects within Kenya. So that's what I manage for Kitui specifically. And when we talk of Kitui, it goes beyond Kitui town, because Mwingi is a sub-county of Kitui County. So I'll do that for Kitui as a town and Mwingi as a town. And basically the scope borders the broader geographical representation of Kitui County.
Yeah, great to actually know that much work is being done. So let's go a little bit back on the financials. So probably you could define what FDB means.
FDB is Africa Development Bank. So when you talk of the financials, these are the partners that finance power projects within the country through the government of Kenya. And the allocation is done nationally, and it's broken now down further to the 47 devolved units within the country.
Yeah, just to understand a little bit about the financing and how it works. So, assuming, for example, I'm a client, say in a remote place in Kitui. So when I come to you, at what point do I get to, or rather, do I get to interact with the financiers, or that is handled by KPLC? And yeah, from your end.
That is handled by KPLC. So different financials have different scopes. Just to break it down, for instance, when you talk of World Bank funded projects, their main target was on the low income areas, or what we call the slum areas, such as Kibera, Mathare, Majengo. Each and every county has its own slum. So that was the scope of the World Bank funded project, although it has been phased off with time, because if each and every financing has its duration in which it will be implemented. And this was the target area was on the low income areas or slum areas, like I'd mentioned before. Then we have the Africa Development Bank, AFDB, or IDA. IDA is International Development Authority, IDA. And for their scope is what you'd call a turnkey project. And for a turnkey project, what they do is they'll identify areas of interest, and the identification is actually done by our local administration and leaders. These are the MCAs, the MPs, members of the county assemblies across the nation. And they'll forward these areas, be it markets, be it health centers, any area that they would want to have their people connected. They'll propose these areas, and the list will now be forwarded to the Ministry of Energy. And depending on the allocations received via the ministry, the funds will be distributed across the counties, scaling down per constituency. And now Kenya Power comes in as an implementing agency alongside REREC. And as a turnkey project, the project can be awarded to an implementing agency to do the construction, to do the design, and to do the meter installation, or they could be awarded just to do the construction and the design, and Kenya Power will come in to do the metering, which is always the case, where we come in to meter the last customer, which is what we call a last mile project, like connectivity to the last customer's home, or to the last point of connection, which could be an institution like a school. So when you talk of different financial partners, they have different scopes of funding, which is in terms of design and construction. We have others that we will do design as Kenya Power and forward to the Ministry of Energy to be funded. Once it has been funded, then we will implement the construction and the metering. However, the common point that all these financiers meet when it comes to KPLC is on the metering part, which KPLC does the metering or the supervision of the metering. I hope that clarifies the scope of the different financial institutions.
Yeah, very much. A follow-up question on that. So there's the aspect of who does the feasibility study, who the viability of the connection. Because I'm assuming, for example, if an MCA proposes or a politician proposes, they might not be technical persons. So who does that before you even say we are going to implement?
Feasibility studies are done by the implementing agency. It could be REREC, that is Rural Electrification, or Kenya Power, where all these organizations have a dedicated department. We call it turnkey projects team that will do the feasibility studies, that will do the reporting. And now that is cascaded down from our central office to regional offices to county offices. So from where I sit, if we have projects identified, in fact, before the MPs or the MCAs forward the list, usually work with them, which is what I mentioned previously in terms of a collaboration with the county governments. We identify these centers with them. We have our business development officers who work hand in hand with the various leaders across the country. And now the list is compiled through coordination of the different offices from Kenya Power side and the different administrators from the national government side. For instance, once a project has been identified, we'll always do what we call a baraza with the chief and the local administration, the nyumba kumis and all that, to identify the feasibility of that project, to identify the ease of implementation, to get approvals, because we realize that once we go into construction, we need to obtain approvals such as way leaves and permits. So that is where collaboration now comes in terms of identification, feasibility, implementation, and any necessary approvals that will be required for a project to be implemented.
Nice. So actually, when a politician says, I will bring you power, I will bring you steamer, they have a role to play actually.
Yeah, yes, they do. Because, when the funding comes in through the national government, it is the MPs who do the allocation through parliament and the finance committee in parliament, yes, in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy. So when they say that we will bring you, what they actually mean is they will put forth a request through the ministry to source for funds or partners that can fund certain electrification projects in their area. And now the national government can now pick it up. You can't go and claim for funds or financing if you don't have reason as to why or proof where the funds will be implemented. So when they talk of we will bring you power, that's what they mean. They'll do the proposals or they'll do the list of areas that they intend to or they propose to have power supplied to, which is forwarded to the ministry. And now the ministry will seek for this funding either from the treasury or the different financial partners. And once the funding is received, now the distribution per constituency is done.
Thank you. That's quite elaborate. So let's move on to something different. Is this work that you've done in Kenya Power for 7 years fulfilling?
Totally. I'll give a practical example. On paper, I'm a design and construction engineer. On the ground, I am a Kenya Power employee in this sense. If a customer comes into the office with any issue of meter reading, customer service, customer experience, operations and maintenance, all these areas we cover or I cover. For instance, if we have planned shutdowns within the county, I'll be part of the team that will be supervising the works, assignment of works. And the works could be on operation and maintenance, that is O&M, or we could even have a shutdown for a new installation. So for me, it has been a fulfilling journey, full of growth and full of key highlights. Because other than just work and customer management, you get to meet great teams of people and to work with them, to learn from them. And that has been something that I don't think I would get it from anywhere else besides working for KPLC. The different challenges are actually quite eye-opening because we've all had the challenges that we've had to go through as a company. And from what we are always told and shown by our senior management is that these challenges is what will make you who you want to be or what you want to be in future in terms of either managing your own enterprise or a business or even managing the company in itself because your leaders transition. And once you get new employees, we all seek to get to a level of management. So how best can you learn management if not under turbulence? And for me, it has been an exciting journey. Even beyond KPLC, it has always challenged me to always seek like-minded professionals that I can interact with to know what is happening in the power sector. And it has provided me a very good platform for that kind of engagement.
Great. You speak knowledgeably about your field, and it's actually impressive to know that that there's that progress in that sense. So if we can go a little bit on the question of fulfilling, I was hoping that you'll give us a project example. For example, say I went to point X. This was the process. I met this client, and then this client, blah blah blah, such a thing. Do you think you have an example of such for us?
Yeah, quite a lot. I'll do two examples. The first one is to show the journey that Kitui has had since I came here about a few years ago. We didn't have any substation in Kitui other than our secondary substation, whose source was Kindaruma or Mwingi. You know, when it comes to supply, it's always important to have a 1+1 configuration. So we had Kindaruma or Mwingi. And the reliability was tough. There are times over the weekend or in the middle of the night, you'd lose power. And the only point that you could either open, close, and do your operations is more than 100 kilometers. So you can imagine traversing 100 kilometers at night to go and do operations on the line. And about 2 years now, a year or two during COVID, we were able to commission the Kitui Ketrako substation. That simply means that when we need to do any operations on our line, that place is 25, 30 kilometers away from the main town. So the reliability has actually improved, the power quality has improved, service delivery has improved, and complaints have been a bit on the lower side in terms of our response time. So that is the kind of fulfillment I've had in terms of my line of work now on a larger scale. On a smaller scale is Kikotech, the Kitui textile industry. And when we heard that the governor wanted to do a textile industry in the county, first of all, there's that self-doubt, will we really be able to achieve this? And at that time, I was doing construction. I was the construction engineer. So after the project had been funded, it was designed and funded and came to implementation. First of all, it was quite challenging in terms of accessibility to the location. You know, for us, trees are our pride. And the shortest route to get supply to that place was through a couple of trees. And you have to negotiate. You don't want to cut down this tree, but you still want power to go to that place. And we had to go into a number of discussions with the community around there. And we did not cut any trees. We only pruned them and modified the line to work perfectly and have them along the trees just by pruning the trees. That is one example. And after we realized that project in terms of implementation, we've been able to see the results that that kind of an installation can do and transform the lives of the people around there. We've had a number of people currently employed in Kikotech. So those are just some of the examples that actually give me joy because it goes hand in hand with what I do at AshGold, transforming lives. So if I'm able to do an installation that can create employment to quite a number of people within the community, which is a source of income for them, it gives me a lot of fulfillment to see that it's not just about connecting. It's about empowering the people or the areas where we do our connectivity.
Thank you. That's important, actually, that you mentioned the aspect of giving people employment opportunities in terms of the work that you've done that has enabled that. But if we could have a question a little bit on getting a project, actually. So talk to us a little bit about the aspect of self-doubt, the process that you went through in terms of you got a very big project. It was your first time handling it. You please speak about how you maneuver through that challenge.
The aspect of self-doubt always exists to all of us at different scales. And in this particular example that I just mentioned, the self-doubt comes in the sense that this is a very big project. And it was one of the early projects that we were doing when we were relatively new, posted just in this area. And you doubt yourself, will you be able to do it correctly, on time, and up to the standards, because it's the first of a kind. And for you to be able to overcome self-doubt, you need to be humble, to learn and to listen. Because what I've learned most that has been quite humbling about my work is listening to everyone and accepting when you are wrong. And actually, when you work as a team, the most important lesson I always carry with me to manage my teams and to work in harmony is that as a leader, you need to learn to rebuke in private and praise in public. By this, what I mean, when you have self-doubt as an engineer, someone else did it or probably knows how to do it. But the only difficult part that we face, or the challenge that we face as engineers, is to say, I am not so sure about this, or I don't know this. What do you think? How can we go about it? Most of the times, we might be tempted to want to show that we are the engineers here, we are the bosses here, we are the leaders here, we have this experience here, and you wouldn't want to maybe listen to your juniors or to your peers. But that is one of the greatest lessons I've learned over time when it comes to self-doubt. To be able to speak when anything is not clear, you can always make a call to anyone. Because I remember that time I would call my manager now. He was our regional manager. And over the phone, I just tell him, engineer, I have 1, 2, 3 kind of a load. I want to do this installation. My thinking is I could probably use a practical example. I have this transformer. It's a 630 kVA transformer. I'm thinking a 300 cable should carry this load sufficiently. And he'd ask me, what if they do extra materials? What if, extra machines? What if you have this kind of a current? What if and what if? And from all that, we discuss and realize that no, my cable, as much as it is adequate, but it is only short term. I should be able to upgrade that cable to a 630 squared cable. And just the point that you are able to call and say, engineer, I'm not so sure about this. I think, yes, it is sufficient, but what do you think? That is what removes all kinds of uncertainties. When we took the transformer to site, the customer had done a powerhouse. And we had advised the customer, we had actually given the dimensions for the powerhouse, given the drawings, and the construction was done. But it's a bit that we missed. Supervising that powerhouse before they did the slab, the roof slab. And when we went to site, at times you over-expect from the other person. So we expected that since we've given you our measurements and our drawings, you will go as per that. Little did we know that the engineer at the site would still issue it to a contractor who would be very quick to finish the work, regardless of how it is done. So we go there with the transformer, and he's done his concrete slab, and the transformer can't get in. And we are there, and we are wondering, what do we do? As a technical person and as the person in charge of the project, now you start getting a bit of anger and impatience, and you don't know what to do. And one of my team members just said, why don't we have it as an overhead transformer and put it on the concrete slab along the pillars? And just listening to our team member saved us the day, because that is how we're able to do that installation. At that time, they were coming to commission and open. The president was actually coming to commission and open the industry, and power was among the last things that you were doing. So you wouldn't want to hold the president to have the roof slab, demolish this concrete slab, blah, blah, blah. It brings in a sense of reason and teamwork. So that is the best lesson I've learned about self-doubt. Listening, saying or speaking up when you are not so sure, or even when you don't know. There is no shame in saying, I don't know this. Actually, there's very good satisfaction and harmony in the teams if you are all able to learn from one another. Because I always believe that when it comes to teamwork, ranks are irrelevant. And what is relevant is the objective. Why are we here, or why are we doing this? We want to connect this customer. How are we going to do it? So you discuss and you implement. That has been my biggest lesson when it comes to self-doubt.
Preach, Apostle Sally. that was a good pitch actually, and just to also bring some context to this. When you mentioned about the aspect of the contractor finishing the work quite early, and there was a miss in terms of, let me say, the communication back to your side to probably let the contractor know that Atonsunga is going to get in here, and therefore don't seal to this extent. At what point was the client involved in this? Or this is an engineer's work? The client was not involved in terms of there could be a challenge that this transport could not get in, and therefore mess up with the process.
The client was involved. However, we have to appreciate the fact that doing the powerhouse it's not electrical works, it's civil works. So when the client gives out the job, you'll have the civil persons or the civil team or the civil engineers doing the civil works, and we'll have the electrical team doing electrical works. However, the teams need to work in harmony because it is the electrical team or the engineer who knows the height of the transformer that is expected on site from KPLC team. And it is the civil team who will do the works on site in terms of construction according to the measurements given. So the only lapse was on the communication between the two teams on the client side, because we had provided the drawings and the electrical engineering team from the client side are aware of the heights that you were expecting for the transformer and the electrical works that would go in, because you will need a generator room if you want to do a standby generator, and you'll need the transformer room, and you'll need the third room for the control panels. So yeah, just that kind of harmonized communication is actually very important, because here you appreciate the different disciplines that come into play for us to just do that kind of an installation, what we call an industrial-based installation. You need to work in harmony with the different players so that you all achieve the same goal.
Thank you. So yeah, there's something else that came up once you were speaking about the challenges that you went through, especially when having self-doubt. So it comes out, if I heard you correctly, that you're big on mentorship. So I want to just understand, when you were able to raise a phone, or rather when you're able to converse with your boss over a phone call, just to clarify a few things on design, that actually means that your relationship with the boss is facilitates that. So would you speak to us a little bit about how that happened in terms of, did you go out and seek out the boss? Or were you, like, the initiative, was it from your end, or how did it come about?
Yes, the initiative was from my end. And as you've mentioned, I'm very big on mentorship. And mentorship for me cuts across either way. It could be from senior to junior, junior to senior, junior to junior. It could cut across the different devices that you'd want maybe to think about at the moment. And there is a statement that we always say, kazi ni ile umepewa na mkubwa. That's what we always believe. Now here, locally, it's a term that we use, kazi ni ile ya mkubwa. And why is that important? The reason the boss is there and you are there is for you to make their life easier in terms of implementing work and in terms of being excellent in what you do. And mentorship is purely about that. How can I make your life better, either through my experiences or through other people's experiences that I've seen? And how can you better my life? And in this particular case, I initiated that kind of communication because as a young engineer, it's important that we work and learn from experienced engineers, not because that we are any less or we are of course we are inexperienced, but not that we are not good enough. but there is that kind of knowledge or wisdom that you get that is not taught in class. And it is always important that you open that kind of communication or that kind of relationship. And the only or the easier way you can do that is by doing work and giving feedback when anything is raised by the boss. At times, you might find that maybe you might receive an email or a communication or a phone call, like in my line of work, inquiring, why is Newton not connected? At times, you might overlook it, just thinking that, of course, you can check in the system or you can ask so and so. But ask yourself, why did Newton ask me why so and so is not connected? Giving that feedback is always very important. And it shows that you are someone who's approachable and someone who respects your work. And because of having that kind of a relationship where communication is open to both teams, it makes it easier even for your teammates to reach out and to ask. So back to what you said, yes, I had initiated that communication, and it's a practice that I have learned to do over time. To date, when I am not certain, I ask. When I'm not comfortable with any decision, I'll speak up. I always speak my mind, and not to be aggressive, but I want us to agree. And if we are moving forward, let it be known we are moving forward together, or we are not moving forward together because of 1, 2, 3. And when you want to do that, you'd want to be very factual. So just to encourage the young engineers, you need to be good at what you do, and you need to communicate effectively. If you feel that 1 or 2 things are a challenge, give us the challenge, give us your thoughts, and let us discuss the solution, as opposed to giving us the challenge, not giving us your thoughts, and expecting a solution. So for young engineers or for mentor and mentee relationships, it's always good if you are part of the discussion in coming up with a solution, because other than just learning, it gets to build you to understand better on how you can provide solutions from different kind of perspectives.
Elaborate an answer. So yes, let's proceed a little bit on the aspect of people management. So from the public information is you are a manager and you have people that you are supervising. So would you give us one positive thing that you have seen in the period that you've worked, one thing that you've done that has impacted people and you are happy about? And on the other end is there a challenge that you think is significant in terms of persons of the technical background that you have seen in your line of duty?
I'll probably answer the challenge and then circle back to what I've done or how I've been able or how I manage my style of management. In terms of technical personnel, one of our biggest, not challenge, but weakness is communication. We always think in our minds and respond in our minds. What I mean is, some of us will, simple things like, let's say, a call. Well, just say, enda mahali, okay, go to Kitui and get me that cable. But you've not specified anything. You've just said, go and bring me the cable. The person might go there to site and find maybe 3 colored cables. Maybe there's red, there's blue, there's black, or there's a single phase, there's a 3 phase, but you've not specified. And they might come back with a red one and you want a black one. So for us as technical people, I think our biggest or one of our shortfalls has been communication, or is communication. And we always think and respond in our heads and think that the other person has actually heard us. And as technical leaders, it gets to affect our relationships with our colleagues. And by being too technical, at times we forget that our team members and us, ourselves, we are human. And how I've managed, or how I manage that, is to always remind myself we are all human beings. We want to feel love. we want to feel appreciated, we want to be praised, and we want to be corrected in a kind manner. And through this, we need to be together. A practical example on how I manage my teams. One is to remember that regardless of our age and our experiences and our qualifications, either we have families or we have friends that we cherish. If your team member has an issue or a challenge, maybe they are bereaved or they're having a birthday or a wedding or a celebration, it has always been close to my heart to be part of their engagement. Outside work, it could be in terms of contribution, it could be in terms of your prayers, it could be in terms of your attendance. For instance, if one of my team members is sick, I'll always make a point, if they're admitted, to visit them at the hospital and to always call, WhatsApp, or text just to see how they're doing and ask how they're coping up and if there's anything else I can do. And I've always believed that it is part of the things that creates harmony in my team. Because for us, of course, we are here to work, but we always remind each other at the end of the day, we'll all go back to our families, we'll all go back to, to our homes. And in a day, in the 24 hours, we have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, the common breakdowns that we have. And to realize that most of the times, for us who work here in Kitui, we spend so much time together, more time than we spend with our families, because our families are far, or even if they are within the county, most of the time we are together at work. So how can you, as a leader, make work feel like family? That is one of the areas or one of the ways in which I do my kind of management. When it comes to work itself, I usually remind them all the time, there is no boss. We are here as a team. So what is the work that is to be done? ABCD. Who is doing what? How is it supposed to be done? And by when? Actually, I usually tell them the only time we'll quarrel is over work. In terms of, if I'm supposed to design something, if I'm not able to do it, I should be able to say it early enough. I think I'm not able to do this and this thing within this time as we had agreed because of 1, 2, 3. The reason being, one of us within the team could be available and could assist, and at the end of the day, we'll achieve that. The only time we'll disagree is if we do not do our work within the agreed time and as required. Those are the only disagreements we have over work. Any other disagreement is not part of our conversation. So that is how I have managed to keep my team together, and I believe they are happy. From our interactions, we are the happiest teams around because we are always together, not in the groupy kind of thing, but we are always together. Like we usually say, we are in this together. If we do not have power and you are on duty, we will come out and we will support you any time of day, any time of night. If any of our team members, for instance, the O&M engineer has work and needs assistance, all you just have to do is to say, I need 1, 2, 3, I need this team, and we will come. We usually don't have those boundaries of, I only do this. I always encourage my team members to know everything within our department and everything outside and part of something outside our department, because I always tell them, one day I'll not be here. For instance, if I go on leave, I expect that work has to flow. If any member goes on leave, they expect that work has to flow. There should be no scenario that maybe you would want power and will tell you, sorry, Newton is not in, come back after 3 weeks, he'll be back from leave. That should not be the case. So creating that harmony, I show people what I do, how it is done. Any reports, I make sure that all supervisors and team leaders know what reports are required and how the reports are prepared. And the reason for that is for everyone to feel comfortable. And even you as a leader, you will not boast that I'm the only one who does this report or I'm the only one who knows how to do this thing. No, that should not be the case. It should be in our team, any of us can prepare a report, any of us can do this, any of us can install a meter. At the same time, you have to respect the other person's work. The fact that I know how to install a meter does not mean that now I'll go and keep installing meters and interfere with their work. If you have a team leader and you've assigned them the work of supervising metering, give them the space to work. I will not plan to the latter, but I'll always tell them that is why you're there. I want you to practice this. Our target is 5,000 customers at the end of the financial year. Do your magic. Prepare your work plans and you share. And through that, you realize that, we all want to be responsible for something and to be allowed that sense of responsibility. So, in summary, as technical people, number one, let us remember that our team members are human, just like we are human, and always bring that humanity into your leadership or into your management style. Show care, show love, and show support. Number two, assign responsibilities, not in your head, but do it practically and ask if it has been understood and communicate clearly. We need 1, 2, 3 by this time. Let it be clear. Have the chain of command well communicated such that if there is any team leader, any supervisor, or any team member, we all know our sense of responsibilities, assign responsibilities per person, and expect feedback from each and every person whom we've assigned responsibility. Because in that, they'll feel that they're actually responsible for something and they're answerable to that. If I put you in charge of construction, for instance, any query or any feedback from construction will come from you, regardless of whether I can extract that report or not. The reason being, I want you to feel that you are actually in charge of that. And through that, it creates harmony. I've realized that it actually creates harmony and there's actually joy. When it comes to Muhandisi podcast and I'd expect Newton to be doing the questions, I wouldn't want to get to a point in the conversation where now I'm the one asking, now, Newton, when did you start? It looks weird. But if I let you take charge of that, you feel that I am in charge of this and I am expected to do it excellently. So that has worked for me, and I'd maybe encourage us to maybe try it. I'm also keen to learn new management and leadership styles moving forward.
Several very, very important points are coming out of this conversation. Just to point out, one is on, if I get you correctly, you're saying that you're also big on delegation, that you allow people the space to be able to do their technical stuff, provide value to the company, and feel valued. And I think that is a very, very important point to stress. But let's move away a little bit from this a lot of technical terms and technical issues. And you've been with Kenya Power again, and repeat, 7 years. So would you speak to something about your transition? So where did you school? How did you get into Kenya Power? How did you transition into the managerial role that you have right now?
By school, you want me to start from what level of school?
No, I mean, campus is sufficient.
Okay. I'm an alumna of the University of Nairobi, where I studied electrical and electronics engineering. And through school, actually, funny enough, I always wanted to work for KPLC. How? I don't know. So after I graduated, my first employer was MRM, Mabati Rolling Mills, where I was part of the graduate trainee program. I was at MRM for 9 months. And then, of course, through university, there are a couple of internships that I did at Telkom Kenya and WIOC, which is the West Indian Ocean Cable Company that now provides the internet services to various ISPs. And then now, after MRM is when I joined Kenya Power. My first year of training was down in Mombasa for 1 year. And then I was posted to Kitui. On my posting, I came in as the construction engineer. However, when I came to the county, the design engineer then was transferred back to the regional office in Thika. And we did not have then a design engineer, and we did not have a construction engineer. That's how I got into design and construction. Luckily, we had a number of contractors that we were working with for design and construction. So now my job was now cut into supervision of design and construction works as done by the various contractors within the county. I did design, supervision, and construction for. Actually, I still do that, but the responsibility has now grown in the sense that initially there was no team that would do design or construction. So, other than the contractors, I had a metering team that was purely doing metering. But over time, as the years have progressed, I now have a design engineer, I have a construction engineer, I still have a dedicated metering team that has now grown from a 3-man army to a 6 able men army that I'm always proud of. And then I have a surveyor and a way lives officer that I also supervise. So my department has a staffing of 10 people. I receive a number of interns and attaches. And for now, it's now 2 years that I have skilled technicians also as part of my team engaged in the design and construction duties. So I hope that cuts across my education and work experience.
Yeah, I'm actually realizing that we are 48 minutes into this discussion, and we can proceed and proceed and proceed. But question on your transition. So is did the experience you had in MRM affect the person that you are right now?
Yes. For me, all the engagements I've had have always affected the person that I am. And when I was at MRM, there's one time that you were assigned, just before I left, you were assigned on field assignment to do sales. That is when the county division structure was just beginning. And I was posted to Kabarnet to do sales for MRM for that region, covering Mogotio, Kabarnet, and just to the border of West Pokot, Kipsaraman. Yes, those were my main towns. And there it was about taking care of yourself. You are the only team, you are the whole team, and you have this target that you have to achieve. And what that taught me was management and independence, with a key focus on keeping your eye on the prize. What is the goal? What do you want to achieve? Because you could choose to maybe not work, but you did not achieve your goal. So you had to manage yourself very well. And that has actually worked for me to be able to come to Kitui now, where as I came in, I didn't have a lot of staff in my section. But over time, the staffing has actually improved. Also, the responsibilities have improved. And the fact that I was able to manage myself as a single person has helped me understand how, if you have a team, they can actually manage yourself, make you manage yourself better, because you have this goal and you're the only person to achieve it. Here, on the other hand, you have this goal and you have a number of people to help you achieve it. So the sense that MRM has enabled me to actually understand myself, I'm now able to work better and achieve better when I work with people, as opposed to when it's just one person. I'm now able to diversify and achieve the goal better.
Asante. Sometimes people may not want to speak to what they did before because probably walikosana na mdosi and such like things. But moving on a little bit on your education. So you say that you have applied for certain licenses such as C1.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason why you applied for C1? Knowing, for example, that your degree qualifies you for a higher class.
So for the IPRA license, electrician license class C1, I applied that during the COVID-19 period. And the reason I applied for that was there was a time we were doing installation inspection after we've done our metering at the various customer premises. And we had personally had a challenge to identify the right wires to use where and to know if this wiring has been done up to standard. What necessitated that? We had this brand of meters that was actually failing quite a number of times. And we were curious, why is this particular brand failing all the time? Is it that the meter is bad or the wiring is bad? What is the challenge? And that is what made me now do the IPRA licensing, because here it is purely wiring installations, wiring works on installations. And it was during the COVID-19. And I thought, well, most people are working from home, and I'm not working from home, but I have a bit of time on my hands, and I can do something extra. That is why I went for that kind of licensing. It has been very important for me because now I understand the different kind of wirings. Because as a trained electrical engineer, if you are not into building services, for you to understand what happens in the building services sector, you have to go an extra mile. And getting that licensing was part of that extra mile. I do qualify for applying for a Class B license. And then upon registration, one can apply for a Class A1 or A2 license, depending on the various requirements. However, I chose to go for a Class C1 because of the experience, and I wanted to grow through into that because I felt that having that level of licensing at that point is what I am dealing with right now, and is what will give me the kind of information that I felt I was missing at that particular point in time.
Yeah, so the advancement is on a need assessment basis. So I need right now, so let me work on it, not necessarily because I'm qualified, I go for it.
Yes, for me, I feel that knowledge, other than just as a point of information, should be able to apply to what you are doing or what you are hoping to do. That is where your knowledge will be relevant, and you'll appreciate why you actually had to study for that. And for the higher grade of licensing, will require registration by the Engineers Board of Kenya. And for me, that is actually a positive challenge. It is a trigger that if I want to go higher in terms of IPRA licensing, it means I have to go higher in terms of career development and get registered. So for me to go higher, it means I need to do 1, 2, 3. So I'll have to work on getting registration or getting 1, 2, 3 done, then now progress to the next level of licensing with IPRA.
Yeah, and speaking about registration, so the engineers board says that you need 3 years. Mm-hmm. So you have survived 7 years at Kenya Power. Mm-hmm. Who are you in the process of registration? Are you doing it, or maybe of the opinion that it's not necessary?
Personally, to me, registration is the part of the ultimate prize of me studying engineering, and I'm actually in the process of registration. It's one of the items that is part of my bucket list that I hope, God willing, I should tick it off very soon, working very hard because, yes, it's 3 years post-graduation experience, and the 7 years, it is always good to show growth in terms of career development and also to mentor others to show them that it is possible and there is actually opportunity for growth if you choose this kind of a career path. So it is something that I am working on, and it is very relevant personally to me in terms of career development.
Yeah, and thank you for that. So we've talked so much about sadly the technical person, sadly the engineer, and in the previous conversation you mentioned something about AshGold, and in just under a minute, would you please tell us what that does and what's all about?
So AshGold Africa is an initiative I began in 2015, simply from my background of my upbringing, where most girls do not pursue careers in STEM. And in addressing that need, I began doing mentorships. First, I began at primary school level in my community, that is in Madare area. So I'd go around the primary schools in the area to give talks on science subjects and mathematics. And over time, it has grown into high school. I've done a number of fellowships and also university, pre-university students. That kind of engagement, basically around areas of STEM, and also diversifying it further into career development. So at AshGold Africa, we are keen on mentorship. We are keen on creating partnerships and collaborations in areas of projects that will create impact in our communities. Just the social enterprise aspect of STEM. And we tap into our existing networks so that we don't just focus on STEM, but cut across the various careers that exist. And when we go into an institution to do our mentorship, we'll bring different persons from different career backgrounds to talk about their journey. We are very big on storytelling because we believe that impact is what I have gone through, and transformation is from my experiences. So that is why we are very big on storytelling, and we encourage our mentors and our mentees to share their stories or their journeys or their experiences through life to inspire the other person. It could be directly or indirectly. So we don't just focus on STEM, which is one of our pillars, but also on career development. We do aspects of public speaking, we do aspects of leadership, communication, and soft skills. And recently, we are looking into social media and branding because when we got to the level of university students, it's not about STEM or it's not about careers, but they are very keen on how can I transition from university into industry? How do I know which industry I would want to work in? How can I be a good communicator? How do I write my CV? How do I pass across a point or a message? And that is now the area that we are now diversifying into as we move into university students and beyond. And through this, we've created a network of young professionals whom we call the empowered volunteers or the empowered mentors of AshGold, who cut across the different careers. And the aim for this is to establish the network. Number one, we all talk about breaking glass ceilings and the different barriers, but how have they done it? That is why we keep this kind of a close knit network. What opportunities exist? When you talk of electrical engineering, do we all have to work in the power sector? And also in the power sector, do we also all have to do power lines? We are moving into smart cities, smart grid, IoT. How does it blend into the power sector? We have engineers who are good in that or who are doing that. So we bring these different kind of careers together, the accountants, all that we bring together just to show that the university students that this is a career path that you can pursue and this is how to pursue it, and these are the extra courses that you need to blend in just as a mix of your kind of your education. And finally is into community service projects where we've done a number of them with the aim of improving the lives of the communities that we engage in. We donate sanitary towels to students. We do dry food runs where we do rations to schools, especially in rural areas. We do solar for STEM projects because we believe that at times when you talk of STEM, when you come to these rural communities, they don't understand the word STEM. It's like a buzzword. But if you're able to do a project for them and show them practically now this is STEM and leave that project with them, they'll always appreciate STEM and they'll always see it as an enabler in transforming the lives of their communities. During the COVID-19, we donated the food operated hand washing stations. And all this, we don't do it alone as AshGold. We partner with like-minded organizations such as the IEEE. We've partnered with Mentoring Africa. We've worked with the Tubariki Foundation. We've worked closely with Yali, USAID, and Power Africa, just to bring these projects closer to the people in terms of financing, resource mobilization, leadership skills and training for our mentors as well, and also just a fulfilling volunteer experience.
You're quite a resource, Sally, and we can go on and on. We may not exhaust all. Thank you even for the work that you're doing at AshGold. And just to summarize, if somebody would like to lend their support to AshGold, how does one go about that?
We have our email, ash.goldafrica@gmail.com. You can reach out to us via that. On social media, we have a Facebook page that you can contact us through, AshGold Africa Initiative, or you can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn or even on social media. My name's Sally Musonye on all social media platforms, and we'll be glad to connect and partner and work together with all of us all for a common goal.
And that is it. Thank you, Sally, for honoring the invite. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for hosting me. I wish you well in your future episodes and engagements.
Karibu sana.
Hi, this is Okelo, resident producer and editor of Mhandisi's Engineers podcast. We are grateful to have had this conversation with Sally Musonye. As we bring the episode to a close, I'd like to share a couple of my highlights from the episode in just a moment of reflection. My first highlight would be learning about the synergy that exists between financiers like the African Development Bank, among others, the government, and KPLC in implementing projects that bring power to underserved communities. A second highlight was the discussion around self-doubt and the importance of speaking with your superior to seek guidance. I feel this is an area where early career professionals would have trouble with, and it's important to know there is no shame in seeking for help when the need arises. My final highlight would be Sally's style of team management. A key point that I appreciated was that in a team we are all assigned tasks that we must perform. But at the same time, it is important that all team members are capable of performing the team tasks. So in the event that a member is unavailable for whatever reason, someone else can take over and accomplish the task at hand. But a caveat to this being that it is done in moderation and only when needed to avoid unnecessarily taking over someone else's work just because you can. All in all, this was a pretty insightful conversation, and I hope you learned something new. Thanks for listening, and I hope to have you tune in to the next episode.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to say a big thank you. Remember that you can listen to Mhandisi, the Engineers Podcast, anytime, anywhere on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. And please leave us a review whenever you listen. Thanks again, and see you next week.